Today we are going to practice quick and bold loose watercolor. Okay, so this kind of quick practices will help you in improving your skills. Basically, loosen you up and will make your watercolor brushworks very loose. Okay, and loose watercolors are always very fascinating, very interesting. Now I'm making some simple vague idea. I don't have a very clear plan of what I'm doing, so I'm just making some land and sky and some kind of trees I'm marking. Exactly how I should do, I don't know. So to start with, I'm giving a dull sky. I don't want it very clean for some reason. Maybe that is I'm using the leftover colors from the palette. I'm making very wet sky first, then probably I will have some plan. I will suggest some wet on wet washes for some of the trees background. Okay, so I'm using some whatever green color left out in my palette. See here, the exact color and all doesn't matter too much. You can make use of the colors in your palette. So here I think I'm using some olive green sort of colors. Okay, so I'm using it very watery background on a very watery background, so that it all merges into the background and creates a feel of little foggy or very soft kind of a background. All right, so maybe some darker stuff at the bottom, right? And so usually the bottom of this crowd of trees are a little bit of darker in color. So I'm just using that idea, and maybe I have the idea that I might give some small pathway. Okay, I leave that pathway a little bit of white, and the rest I will make maybe the green piece of land. See, some white area is formed on the right side, so I'm leaving it as it is. Maybe I will use it for suggesting some reflection, I don't know, but here I want to make some pathway. Okay, let it be some path across a green piece of land, and the background having a lot of trees, etc. Okay, so this is very watery, wet on wet stuff, and there are a lot of merging happening. Okay, so some of the merging, see, when the things are merging, it gets a little bit dull also. Whatever darkness we have initially applied, that goes dull. So to reinstate some of those darknesses, I am kind of splashing some bluish color there, so that gives some kind of an illusion that there are some distant trees. Okay, those droplets of blue at the back side gives an illusion that it gives there are some background trees. Okay, now while it is still wet, I am making some tree trunks, so I know that it will merge, it will get softer, but I am at this point I'm looking for that kind of a feel, and a lot of these trunks, I know that it will get lost once it is dry, because it will merge with the background. But even though it might merge with the background and get lost, I still have a feel that those will create some interest. They will look like some faded trees, and it will create some interest. It will create interest to the background. Okay. See, some of the trees should be little darker, some should be lighter. So some should be narrower, some should be thicker. So I'm just following my heart. Okay, see, with this kind of approach, you cannot think too much. If you think too much, everything will get dried, and you will not get the kind of effect that I am looking for. My idea at this point is softer and kind of a foggy kind of a background, maybe, where things are not very sharp. In the foreground, we should have some kind of a darker touches here and there to get a feel of being busy in the background. So you cannot have a very plain, very vacant looking background. Some texture should be there in the background, right? See, at this point I am happy with the rest of the things maybe, and let us suggest some foliages for the distant trees with some lighter tones, and nearby tree with slightly darker tones. See, I'm not actually, since it is wet, right, we don't have to really be precise of the foliages. Some kind of brushwork suggesting the overall shape of the foliages is enough. So you can just make some darker shapes, and we can assume that okay, it will all merge and it will look good. Okay, so that is what I'm doing right now. So I'm just making some darker volumes, darker shapes, so that once everything is dry, I hope they will get dried. They will merge together and give some illusion of larger volumes. Okay, now let us think for the ideas what to do next. Some of these volumes are not dark enough, so adding little bit more tonal values to those nearby tree foliages. Okay, now just the foliages may not be sufficient to make it look little bit more busier. I'm sprinkling some similar foliage color. So I'm just loading my brush fully and just tapping it on my hand so that the droplets will fall on the paper. You cannot precisely control this. You can sort of guide with some experience, but exact precise control may not be possible. Okay. Now I feel that this is mostly, it looks very foggy kind of a scene, okay, at this point, and I'm sprinkling some water to create some more interest. So when you sprinkle some water, it gets more interesting. If you see, it is still wet, and it is little bit damp. The paper is little damp, not fully wet, but it is not dry either. So I suddenly get an idea that okay, let us, from the back of the trees, let some light rays peep through. This is just a dynamic idea. I haven't actually planned for this. So I thought getting some sun rays peeping through these trees may be a good idea. See, these kind of practices will develop your ideas also, because you had to rely on your ideas when you work in this way without proper planning. You have to rely on your ideas, and whenever some idea splashes into your mind, try to follow it, and that way your imagination, creativity also improves. Okay, so I'm not sure if this is going to work really, but I feel that it might work, but I'm okay even if it fails, because I made an attempt assuming that this will work, and if it didn't work, I may have a reason why it didn't work that will add to my imagination later. I mean, I will come to know that what works and what doesn't work. Okay, so to make some of these edges softer, I am using a tissue paper and just gently and quickly rubbing off. Okay, you have to, this timing is important. You cannot do this kind of rubbing off when it is fully wet, or fully dry also it is not possible. It should be partly wet. Okay, so that area where the origin of rays are there, I want a little more lighter. And see, you can always play with you can always make adjustments with your finger or with the tissue paper, etc., so that it looks little bit more softer and it is merging into the surrounding. The light beams strongly originate from the direction of the sun, and it then gradually mixes to the background. So these kind of with the tissue paper I am trying to get those kind of an effect. This seems to work, but don't overdo it. Okay, so let us do like this. I think this is fair enough. Now to enhance this, we need to make some more trees in the nearby when it dries. Okay, so you have to ensure that it is dry. Now in the path of the light rays, the color will be more warmer, or light will be hitting on the tree trunks in this area. So I am using little warmer color on the tree trunks, which hits this light rays, like beam of light. So I'm just making warmer portions of the tree trunks in. Okay, and where the light is not hitting, I will use darker tones, so that we can somehow enhance the illusion of light hitting on those tree trunks. Okay, this will be more clear when we complete the tree trunk. Okay, when we complete the tree trunk, the idea will be more clear. Okay, so at those areas where the lights are not hitting, maybe at the back portion of those tree trunks, etc., and on the portions which is not in the light beam path, I'm making it darker. I think it seems to work. Okay, so if it doesn't work, we'll have to see what can be improved. Okay, this seems to make sense to me. But since we don't have any reference, we didn't have any proper plan or thinking, even if it doesn't work, I'm happy. I made attempts and I learned certain things. That could be a good approach for learning. Okay, here also I'm going for the same approach. Okay, so it seems to make sense. I'm getting some sense of light and some sense of beam hitting there, and some. See, we have to make we cannot just make 2 or 3 trees. To match with the context, I wanted to make more trees in the background. See, most of the trees that we have initially made are lost, but you can still see the traces in the background. Okay, so it really gives a feeling that it is a little bit foggy at the background, and some of the trees are hidden in the fog. So that is what maybe useful here. Okay, now we have to think what we need to do next. Okay, so the white area on the right is still there. I don't know what to do on those light hitting area. Let us try to enhance by lifting of some colors, so that the light hitting sharply on those some edges of the branch can be enhanced. You see, it is the same repetition of what we did on the background. We are doing that on the tree trunks as well, to reinstate the effect of light rays. Okay, this seems to make sense now. Okay, now we have to really see what we should do next. Maybe more narrow branches needs to be done. It is just a single strong trunk. Some narrow branches also may be required, and some foliages also. Okay, so let us define there are 2 options. Either you can make the smaller branches and the foliages, or the foliages and then connect them using narrow branches. So I go for foliage first, and for the foliages also, wherever it is hitting the light, I am using warmer color for the foliages. Okay, yellowish, orange sort of things. And for the non-light hitting areas, let us make more foliage colors like darker green sort of thing. Okay, so that everything should contribute to the feel that light is hitting somewhere strong on some of the parts. Okay, so that kind of an illusion I wanted to keep reinstating or keep emphasizing. Okay, and when you make foliages, you don't have to make it very realistic. Okay, this is a suggestive kind of an approach. You can make suggestive foliages, and see, the light rays has some kind of a focal area where the foliages could be little bit more precise, where I'm doing now. Okay, but when I get to the corners, it can be more kind of a larger volume. Okay, so we could, I think, since we have made the foliages, darker foliages in the center, we should also do some washes of darker foliages on the corners also, so that it overall works well. So I'm picking up with a larger brush, I'm picking up darker tones and trying to give some dark matching foliages on the corners also. Okay, so that, see, it should be balanced. It shouldn't be heavy at the center and there is no tonal compensation on the other portions. So I'm just trying to balance it with some darker foliages on this, on the left side also. Okay, now I think overall it starts to make sense, the foliages. Now more branches. I'm using a thin brush for this, liner brush. Okay, and you don't have to be very precise. Here also ideally we should use warmer color for the light hitting portions, but I'm kind of okay to use a single color. I would prefer to use warmer color for the light hitting areas. You can do that if you are looking this and following, but at some point, at this point I feel it is okay, since it is narrow foliages and narrow branches, it's okay. Right, what next? Some shadows, which we should be worrying about what is the shadow direction. So the light beams are coming from top center, so accordingly the shadow should be in the same direction. So let us make it little softer. Okay, the right side shadow gives some impact, but the left side shadow I don't want to give. Those white area looks a little vacant, so I'm giving some reflection sort of thing, some more random marks to increase the depth on the land. Okay, now what else? Let us add some figures. Okay, so figures, I don't know, figures may be a good idea for this kind of a context or not, but I love making figures, and figures often connects the viewer to your work. So making some very suggestive figure, it is kind of a silhouette kind of a thing, not very detailed with precise details. Maybe some couple of figures, not just one. Maybe let us another figure facing him. Okay, maybe they are talking, I don't know. See, when you add figures, there should be some kind of a story that you are going to make. Some shadows for the figure also may be required. Okay, so just ideally I'm not sure if this kind of bright shadows will be there for this kind of light, but the shadows, dark shadows always makes good impact to your work. There be another person there. Okay, so I'm thinking, should I make more figures? So no, I think I will leave it as here, because the more figures may not be a good convincing approach for this kind of a background. Okay. Some details, some detail touches. Even the figures, they are still wet. Okay, so I'm just making some highlighting touches for those figures just to enhance those light kind of thing. I know those will all merge, but since it's a quick practice and I don't want to really waste time for drying and all, so I'm just leaving it like this. Okay, some opaque touches for the light hitting area. I'm not sure if that is good. I think it is slightly spoiling. See, if something you do and if you think it is spoiling, don't worry. I mean, you were doing an experiment. I'm doing an experiment here. Something didn't work well means I'm happy. That will be a learning for my next study. Okay, so then I don't always try to correct it. Okay, see, those figures are very kind of softer, but it's okay. It looks interesting. I think I'm done, and I have signed and will take off the tape. Now this is the final work. I'm pretty happy with my experiment. It looks convincing. It looks interesting. So hope you liked it. Please watch the channel for more videos. Thank you.